cycles. You keep the fire burning.
Our episode starts with Mina walking through a medical ward in what looks like a very long time ago. She opens a cabinet filled with blood, and we see her fangs. Next, we have Galvin and Luke casing the place, and they see a punk rock looking guy putting a coffin in a car. When Luke says he can't see their boss, Galvin tells him to look again and informs him they're dealing with the undead. We then see the man bring the coffins inside a building, and a man and a woman awaken from it. Back with the group, Galvin tells Luke and Ruby about how dangerous the male vampire Quincy is. Galvin asks Mina for help, but she turns him down, claiming she has a piano recital, though he calls her out that it's on a different day. Galvin and Luke then decide to stake out Mina's place. Inside, we see her giving herself a blood transfusion. We then see her get in a limo as they follow her. Galvin informs Luke that Mina is a vampire who has Dracula's blood in her veins, making her very powerful. He then informs Luke that while she's one of them, if she begins acting differently, they'll have to destroy her. Mina eventually arrives at Quincy's hideout, where she is confronted by the female vampire Annika. The two don't get along very well, as Mina wants to meet with Quincy, and Annika instead removes her from the building. Once she gets home, Galvin confronts Mina about the situation. They are very vague about a past situation, insinuating that Mina has a history with Quincy and prevented him from being destroyed in the past. She promises Galvin she won't get in the way this time. Back at school, Luke tells Ruby about the Mina situation. Ruby was supposed to read Dracula, but said it was boring. Luke tells her she needs to, as it might tell her that Mina is a vampire. As Mina arrives at the recital, Annika tells her that Quincy will see her. She walks Mina to some old run-down hallway where Quincy appears and gives her a kiss on the cheek. He says he's there to catch up and he's lonely. She tells him she needs time to think. After a drawn-out scene of Luke going through fighting training while Galvin talks about vampire myths, Galvin finally gets to the point and tells him that humans can fight vampires, but only a vampire can kill another vampire, so they need his DNA to kill him. That night, Luke and Galvin enter Quincy's lair once he leaves. Luke tells Ruby to go home, who followed them, but instead she chooses to follow Quincy. At Quincy's lair, Annika toys with and then makes short work of Galvin, but is accidentally hit with a stool by their familiar as she goes after Luke. Back with Ruby, she ends up following Quincy to a club where he confronts her. They end up sitting down and having a talk about the ethics of feeding. They all regroup and try to come up with a plan on how to handle Quincy. The idea is now to try to cure his vampirism, which would immediately result in him dying of old age. After Ruby and Mina have a spat, Ruby pulls out a strand of Quincy's hair. After a scene where Quincy and the crew go out that includes him using his familiar's head to bowl and feeding on a diner waitress, Mina confronts him outside the diner. Mina tells Quincy she'll join him. We then see that this was all part of the group's plan. Ruby is told to stay in the car, and she finally gets to the part in the Dracula book that mentions Quincy to learn who he is. At their meeting, Mina tries to make Quincy realize that he should leave and mentions that Annika is in love with him. The crew then ambush him, but before Luke can shoot Quincy, Mina pushes the gun, forcing him to miss. Quincy then takes off with Galvin as a hostage and eventually takes Ruby as well, who he finds in the car. Luke then reprimands Mina for sacrificing Galvin for an old lover. She then corrects him and tells him that that's her son. Mina then tells Luke that despite what the book says, she wasn't cured of vampirism and just used ways to keep her vampirism at bay. She then explains that after the war, Quincy had come down with a terminal illness, and in order to save him, she replaced the blood he was being transfused with hers, not realizing he was going to become a bitter, angry vampire. Luke says Quincy has to die. She once again says she agrees. Annika confronts Mina at a bar and informs her that Quincy is giving her 24 hours to give him her blood, or something will happen to Galvin and Ruby. Mina then gives Luke the wrong address and collects a vial of her blood and heads to where Quincy is holding Galvin and Ruby. She tells him saving him was the worst thing she ever did, and instead of giving him the vial of blood, she drinks it herself, fangs out, and begins manhandling him. Just before she can bite him, he reveals that he's actually her son with Jonathan Harker, which results in her walking away. Luke then comes in, but Annika stops him. Galvin stakes her, giving Luke enough time to shoot Quincy with the cure, and he ages to death in Mina's arms. The episode ends with Mina revealing that when she drinks blood, she can see, and she makes jokes about the rest of the crew's looks. Thanks for watching. If you like these recaps, please leave a like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to know every time I update. There is now an option to be a channel member where you'll get access to exclusive recaps from late night vampire catalogs like Showtime, Cinemax After Dark, USA Up All Night, and much more. If you want to help my channel grow, please check out my Patreon where members can get exclusive content that can't be uploaded on YouTube along with download options. Link is in the description.